Delta Force call sign Saber to base. We're done. 26 minutes before they poison the entire grid. Cole Maddox's voice cracked. Around him, Delta operators whispered final prayers, fingers tracing photos of families they might never see again. "Doctor," Kruger sobbed quietly, clutching secrets worth dying for. Then through the storm crack, a muzzle flash died on the ridge. Silence followed. "Unknown call sign," Cole breathed. "Identify." Blood dripped into Ava Merrick's one good eye. 5 rounds left. 7 targets. She chambered the first, "Just hold the line." And hell answered back. "Before we begin, tell us where are you watching from, and if you believe honor and courage still matter, help keep their legacy alive." The Gray Line corridor was a jagged scar across the mountains, black rock cutting into the night sky. Wind pushed through the valley in bursts, carrying the scent of ozone and wet stone. Saber Team moved in silence, every step purposeful, every shadow a threat. They weren't alone. Behind the operators trudged a man in civilian clothes, head down, clutching a battered case. Dr. Leon Kruger, a scientist who had fled from a weapons program, carried data that could expose a bioweapons project no one was supposed to know existed. Cole Maddox, Saber Team's commander, raised a fist, and the line froze. His earpiece hissed with static, then died. Their encrypted net had been jammed. In the distance, the echo of mortars rolled across the cliffs. "Contacts incoming," Tara McKinnon whispered. She pivoted her carbine toward the ridgeline. Muzzle flashes blinked in the fog, scattered but coordinated. These weren't irregulars firing blindly. They were professional, and they were closing fast. Cole swore under his breath. The extraction bird was scheduled in 30 minutes. If they missed that window, Command had warned, the valley would be blanketed with chemical agents. The enemy would poison the entire grid to erase every trace. The scientist stumbled as another explosion rattled the ground. Owen Parrish caught him, hauling the man upright. "Move him! Get to the lower shelf!" Cole barked, forcing momentum through fear. On a ledge above them, a lone figure dragged herself into position. Ava Merrick locked her rifle into a bipod, breath ragged, vision swimming. The mortar that had scattered their formation had clipped near her perch, throwing shrapnel into her helmet and face. Blood dripped into her left eye, turning the world into streaks of red and shadow. She blinked hard, but nothing cleared. Her right eye would have to do. She dug into her pouch, injected a stimulant into her thigh, and steadied her shaking hands. The scope blurred in and out, but she forced it still. The Mach 13 Mod 7 rested against her shoulder like an old memory. She whispered to herself, "One eye is enough." Then she sighted on the first silhouette. Crack! The shot split the storm. A man on the ridgeline pitched backward, rifle clattering from his hands. Saber Team below surged forward, using the gap Ava had carved open. Cole's voice snapped over the short-range comm. "Merrick's alive. She's on the ridge." Relief flickered in his tone, but it didn't last. Another burst of fire rained down, forcing them into cover. Ava adjusted again. Every movement sent a spike of pain through her skull. The rock beneath her trembled from distant blasts. She tasted copper on her tongue. The countdown in her mind had already begun 29 minutes. She tracked 2 more figures maneuvering across the slope, their coordination too tight for local militia. These were trained mercenaries. She exhaled slowly, waited for the lightning to flare across the clouds, and fired as thunder crashed. One target dropped. The second staggered and crawled out of sight. She didn't chase the kill. Time mattered more than numbers. Her job was to open corridors, not wipe the board. Below, Tara moved the scientist between cover while Owen and Lowry laid suppressive fire. Cole kept scanning, eyes sharp, weighing every angle. He knew the enemy wasn't rushing. They were herding, and the herd was them. "Extraction window is ticking," Lowry muttered, checking his watch. 28. Cole didn't answer. He didn't need to. Everyone knew what failure meant. Ava reloaded, the motion slower than it should have been. Blood slicked her fingers, but she locked the bolt home. The fog swirled thicker, gusts whipping at her cloak. Somewhere in that haze, other rifles were waiting for her. She pushed the thought down, focus narrowed to breath, crosshairs. Pressure on the trigger. The rest of the world vanished. Crack! Another gap opened for Saber Team to push forward. Doctor! Kruger stumbled again, nearly falling into the rocks. Tara grabbed his collar, shoving him forward. Move! We don't have time! Her voice carried raw urgency. Cole keyed his mic. Merrick, status. There was no reply. For a moment, he thought she was gone. Then her voice came through, low but steady. Still here. One corridor at a time. The words carried weight, not comfort. Cole understood she was fighting gravity, blood loss, and the clock, but she was still fighting. That was enough. Owen shouldered his carbine, firing short bursts uphill. They're circling from the east. He ducked as rounds chipped stone over his head. Sparks showered across the ground. Ava shifted, sighting along the eastern flank. The mercenaries moved in disciplined pairs, using signals she recognized. They weren't just here to kill. They were here to capture. Capture the scientist. She squeezed the trigger. One went down. The second dropped behind cover. Radio crackling faintly. She knew the sound. Reinforcements were being called. Her vision blurred again. She wiped her brow, hand coming away red. She whispered to herself, "Don't stop. Not yet." Thunder rolled, lightning forked, and the wind screamed through the valley. Saber Team fought to hold their ground as minutes bled away. Every movement, every choice, pressed against the weight of the countdown. Cole looked back once at the scientist, then up toward the ridge where Ava was hidden in the storm. He didn't know if she could last the night, but he knew without her, they wouldn't last 10 more minutes. The timer in Ava's mind struck 27, and the battle for survival had only just begun. The storm arrived like a wall of fury. Clouds cracked open, spilling sheets of rain down the mountainside. Wind tore through the valley at 70 miles an hour, bending trees and sending gravel rattling across the rock face. Saber Team huddled in fractured cover, lightning throwing jagged shadows around them. The sky flashed white, then black again. Thunder crashed so hard it shook dust from their rifles. Cole Maddox pressed his hand to Dr. Kruger's shoulder, forcing the scientist lower. "Stay down," he barked. They couldn't move far in this weather, not without getting cut to pieces. Above them, Ava Merrick fought to steady her rifle. Every gust pushed against her scope, the crosshairs dancing like a trapped insect. She clenched her jaw, forcing her body to become an anchor in the chaos. Blood trickled from her temple, washing down with the rain. Her left eye was nearly blind, vision smeared red. She used only her right, focusing so hard it made her head pound. Then the first countershot came, a muzzle flash on the opposite ridge. The round screamed past, striking inches from her position. Ava didn't flinch. She adjusted, knowing she had been marked. Another flash, from a different angle, then a third. She understood instantly this wasn't random fire. 3 snipers had locked onto her. It was a hunt, and she was the prey. Cole heard the ricochets above. Merrick's under fire. His team opened up in support, but their carbines couldn't reach across the valley. This was a duel only she could fight. Ava exhaled slowly, scanning. One silhouette crawled across a ridgeline, disciplined, no wasted motion. The second used flashes of lightning to mask movement. And the third, her gut twisted, the rhythm was familiar. The radio crackled with a voice she hadn't heard in years. Male, steady, mocking. "Ava, you still blink when the wind shifts." Her stomach dropped. A former teammate, gone rogue. She didn't answer. Words wasted breath, but the recognition burned. He knew her tells, the slight hitch in her breathing, the cadence of her trigger squeeze. He had studied her once. Now he used it against her. Another crack of thunder. Shots ripped past, forcing her to flatten against the wet stone. The tree she had tied her safety line to creaked, roots loosening in the saturated earth. Down below, the Delta operators fought to hold ground. Owen Parrish laid fire uphill. Tara McKinnon pushed Kruger forward. Lowry scanned the perimeter. They didn't know Ava was clinging to a ledge that could crumble at any moment. Then tragedy struck. A sniper round slammed into one of the operators, Sergeant Vega. He fell with a cry. blood spreading across his chest. Ava had seen the glint but fired half a second too late. Her heart clenched. She had missed. The guilt hit her harder than the storm itself. Vega's body went still, his rifle clattering into the mud. Cole knelt beside him, rage in his voice. "Merrick, he's gone." For a second, silence filled her headset. Then she whispered, "I know." Rain washed the tears from her face, indistinguishable from blood. Cole hardened, pulling his team together. "Listen to me. That wasn't your fault. But now you owe us. 4 lives left. Don't let us down." The words carved into her. She had no choice but to keep shooting. Lightning split the sky, thunder rolling like artillery. Ava steadied her breath, forcing her remaining eye to sharpen. She tracked the rogue sniper's rhythm, but he vanished before she could fire. He was waiting for her to make the first mistake. Another call came through. East approach compromised. "Too many hostiles." Lowry's voice cracked with fear, one of their own. Corporal Hayes was bleeding badly, unable to move. Cole looked at Ava's perch. "We can't carry him, not in this weather. We'll lose everyone." Hayes groaned, gripping Cole's arm. "Leave me," he gasped. "Do it. Blow the charges. I'll cover you." Ava's breath caught. She sighted on a pack of explosives stashed near Hayes' position. He nodded weakly toward her, eyes steady. "End it. Merrick, give them a chance." Her finger trembled. For a moment she saw the face of a child in her scope, the memory that had haunted her for years. But Hayes' voice cut through. "Do it, crack!" The round detonated the explosives. Fire and stone erupted, tearing apart the advancing mercenaries. The blast swallowed Hayes, his final act saving the team. Cole dragged Kruger behind cover as the shockwave passed. Tara shielded her eyes. Owen coughed through dust and rain. The path was open, but the cost was brutal. Ava dropped her head against the stock of her rifle, body shaking. 2 men gone, both deaths tied to her trigger. She could barely breathe, but she chambered another round. There was no time for grief. The rogue sniper's laughter slipped across the radio, chilling and cruel. "That's the Merrick I remember, always late by half a second." She closed her eye, rage battling exhaustion. The storm screamed around her, wind tearing at her cloak, lightning stabbing the sky. She knew she was bleeding out slowly, but Saber Team still moved below. They had to reach the extraction in less than 15 minutes. Ava steadied her rifle again. Pain lanced through her skull, but she ignored it. She whispered to herself, "Not another one. Not tonight." And she pulled her focus back to the hunt. Rain hammered the ridge until it felt like the mountain itself was bleeding. Ava Merrick checked her pouch with trembling fingers. Only 5 rounds remained, slick with water and her own blood. She whispered the number aloud. 5. Her lips were cracked, her voice raw. Below her, Saber Team pressed forward through the storm, carrying Dr. Kruger like a fragile relic. 7 distinct hostiles blocked their path to the stone wall. She counted the muzzle flash's tripod gun. A commander, 4 riflemen, and the rogue sniper still hunting her. 5 rounds for 7 lives. The math was merciless. Cole Maddox's voice came through the headset, calm but strained. "Merrick, we need that corridor cleared. 12 minutes left." He didn't ask if she had enough ammunition. He didn't need to. Lightning tore across the sky, giving her a brief window. She tracked 2 riflemen moving in line. A rare chance. She squeezed off a round, aiming for a through and through. Crack! The bullet pierced the first man's chest, then buried into the second. Both collapsed into the mud, rifles clattering uselessly. Ava exhaled, shoulders shaking. 4. The recoil made the cliff beneath her groan. Stones tumbled, the ground shifting. She had anchored herself to a weathered tree, but its roots were sliding in the saturated soil. Every shot was bringing her closer to a fall. She swung her rifle again. The tripod gunner was setting up. If he fired, Saber Team would be shredded. She forced her vision sharp through the rain. Crack! The gunner slumped sideways, the weapon useless. 3. Pain seared through her skull. The stimulant was wearing thin, her body trembling. She steadied herself with sheer will, wiping blood from her good eye. She couldn't afford a mistake now. The commander appeared next, barking orders, rallying the mercenaries. She lined him up, wind howling across her scope. She timed it with the lull between gusts and fired. Crack! His body spun, collapsing in the mud. 2. Cole moved his team forward in short bounds. Tara dragging Kruger by the arm, Owen firing bursts, Lowry scanning their flank. They were so close, but every step was contested. Then came the voice again, smooth, cold, familiar. 2 shots left. Ava. Just like old times. Her rogue ex-teammates' laughter buzzed across the radio, taunting her. She froze for a moment. Memories surged missions together. Shared rations, trust broken by betrayal. He had once covered her blind spots. Now he was exploiting them. A muzzle flash cut across her peripheral. She jerked sideways as a round sparked off the rock inches from her face. He had her pattern, knew the timing of her breath. The tree holding her line groaned louder, roots tearing free. She pulled against it, forcing herself upright. Every second counted. Through the fog, she spotted a demolition pack on an enemy's back. He was moving toward the wall, ready to plant charges. She had to stop him, but it meant burning her second-to-last bullet. She fired. Crack! The pack detonated, fire and stone erupting, the fighter gone in a flash. 1. Her rifle clanged empty for a moment before she reloaded with shaking hands. The rogue sniper's voice hissed again. Last round. Ava. Is it for me or for them? His words twisted in her ears. The choice was inescapable. She sighted toward the ridge where he moved like a ghost. Waiting for her, but down below. Cole's team was pinned. Enemy riflemen converging near the stone wall. If she took the duel, Saber team would be overrun. Her breath came ragged. She remembered Vega falling, Hayes sacrificing himself. She couldn't let more die. She whispered to herself, not for revenge, for survival. Instead of aiming at the sniper, she shifted fast, eyes locking on a communications beacon glowing near the enemy's commander post. The beacon controlled jamming, and destroying it would reveal their position to the extraction bird. Crack! The final shot tore the beacon apart, sparks flaring through the storm. The enemy net collapsed in confusion. For the first time, the helicopter would see their signal through the haze. The recoil cracked the ledge beneath her. The tree wrenched free. Ava's body jolted forward, dangling over empty air. She clung to the rifle, rope biting into her waist, breath exploding from her lungs. Below, Cole saw the sparks flare, his comms clearing. The pilot's voice broke through. Signal acquired. 2 minutes to landing zone. Relief surged through the team. Ava dangled, blood dripping from her hair into the void. Her vision faded, blackness encroaching the edges. The rogue sniper's voice whispered one last time. You chose wrong, but his words felt hollow against the thunder. She smiled faintly through the pain. She hadn't chosen wrong. She had chosen them, her team. And then her world went dark. As the helicopter blades began to thunder closer, the valley glowed in sudden fire as the extraction bird cut through the storm. Rotor blades churned mist into torn veils of white. Saber team dragged Dr. Kruger forward, sprinting across rocks that trembled with the last echoes of explosions. Cole Maddox barked orders over the noise. Move, move! Tara McKinnon hauled the scientist by his collar while Owen Parrish covered their flank. Lowry limped, but he kept his weapon trained. The countdown in all their minds ticked with merciless rhythm. Behind them, the ground shook with the hiss of canisters bursting open. A cloud of chemical fog spilled into the valley, spreading fast. They had seconds before the entire corridor was swallowed. The helicopter dropped hard onto a strip of broken shale. The crew chief waved frantically. Get them aboard now! Cole shoved Kruger first. Then each operator piled in one after another. A rope dangled over the cliff where Ava Merrick still clung, soaked in blood and rain. Her rope harness strained against her weight, the tree stump dragging across the edge as roots tore loose. Cole saw her and cursed. He clipped himself to the bird's safety line and leaned out. Grab my hand, he yelled. Ava forced her head up, one eye swollen shut, the other burning with determination. She reached, fingers slipping once, then locking around his wrist. He hauled her with every ounce of strength he had. Tara and Owen grabbed him from behind, pulling both inside just as the stump gave way and fell into the abyss. The hatch slammed shut. The helicopter clawed into the sky, leaving the valley below to vanish beneath a spreading cloud of poison. Inside, silence filled the cabin except for the labored breathing of survivors. Ava slumped against the metal wall, rifle across her lap. Blood covered her face, soaking the bandage pressed to her temple. When the medic shined a light into her eyes, he shook his head grimly. Left eye's gone. Damage is permanent. His words cut through the roar of engines. Ava only nodded once, accepting what she already knew. She turned her head toward the others. "You're alive. That's enough." Cole sat across from her, his face lined by exhaustion. He looked at the two empty seats in the cabin, Vega and Hayes. He closed his eyes for a moment, then whispered, "We'll carry them home." The bird touched down at Camp Granite as dawn broke. The world glowed pale gold, sky clearing after the storm. Saber Team staggered onto the tarmac, battered and bloody but alive. In the days that followed, reports were filed, missions debriefed, secrets buried. Official paperwork reduced the night to sterile language extraction achieved with support from attached Overwatch asset. No mention of Ava's duel, no mention of sacrifice. Command prepared to recommend her for a Distinguished Service Cross. Cole brought the news to her bedside. She shook her head immediately. "Not mine. I let Vega fall. Hayes died because I pulled the trigger. Don't pin medals on ghosts." He wanted to argue, but her single eye burned with such conviction he couldn't. He placed the patch they had found the black owl with lightning on the table beside her. "Then keep this. It's proof." She turned it over once, then closed her hand around it. Weeks later, Ava signed her retirement papers. The doctors had cleared her for limited duty, but she knew the battlefield was no longer hers. The scar across her face and the loss of her eye made sure of it. Instead, she walked onto a training range where young recruits lined up behind scoped rifles. Their stances were shaky, breathing uneven. Ava adjusted one trainee's shoulders, her voice calm and steady. "Control your pulse. The shot begins in your chest, not your finger." The recruit fired. The round, clipping center target. Ava allowed herself a faint smile. Teaching them meant something. Passing on what she had nearly lost forever meant more than medals gathering dust. She carried her lessons like scars. Don't blink when the storm rises. Don't hesitate when lives hang in the balance. And remember, sometimes the last bullet isn't meant for the enemy. At night she sat alone, polishing the Mes 13 she no longer carried into combat. Her reflection in the steel showed one good eye, steady and unflinching. She whispered to the memory of Vega and Hayes, "I'm still carrying you. Every shot I teach, you're there." Saber Team visited her months later. They brought Kruger's safe return report, news that his data had exposed entire networks of bioweapons research. Lives would be saved because he walked out alive. Cole clasped her shoulder firmly. "You didn't just buy us 30 minutes. Merrick, you bought a future we didn't think we'd see." She nodded once, words unnecessary. As the sun set behind the ranges, lightning flickered on the horizon, a storm building again. Ava watched the recruits look nervously at the sky, then back at her. She tightened the patch of the night warden around her wrist, one eye gleaming with fire. The battlefield had taken her sight, but it had given her a purpose she could still serve. And when the thunder rolled across the mountains, she whispered to herself, "One corridor at a time." If you enjoyed the story, consider sending a super chat to help bring more stories like this. Now, click on the video on the screen to hear another story that's just as powerful and captivating with courage, sacrifice, and a choice that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about duty and justice.